I knew that this whole Tea Party movement came out of the nostalgia for a plantation economy. That's where it came from. Why is it that they all come out of those dozen southern states that were part of the Confederacy? This is the resurgence of the Confederacy. That's why well, I'm not going to go on. I got to shut up.
Are you solidly for Hillary, or are you more anti-Trump?
No, I'm solidly for Hillary. I think Hillary is going to be a very, very good president.
You're also very close to Bernie Sanders, are you not?
Yeah, both Bernie and Hillary are long-term friends, and I'm a big admirer of Bernie's. I'm very, very happy that he ran. I think all of my children were supporting him, and but now we're all going to be working as hard as we can for Hillary.
Are you a Hillary supporter?
Yes.
Okay. Does it bother you?
But I have to say I love Bernie Sanders too.
You do?
Yeah, I
okay.
really think Bernie Sanders is he's one of the real politicians of integrity out there. The biggest crisis that we now face as a race, as a world, as civilization, is global warming, climate chaos.
Is global warming today the biggest threat?
I think global warming is the gravest threat. All of the modeling for climate change indicates that we're going to be facing superstorms, storms on steroids, droughts, famine, the disappearance of the ice caps, the disappearance of the glaciers on every continent. Right now, we have a market that is governed by rules that were written by the carbon incumbents to reward the dirtiest, filthiest, most poisonous, most toxic, most warmongering fuels from hell, rather than the cheap, clean, green, wholesome, and patriotic fuels from heaven. We don't need to abolish carbon in this country in order to understand that our deadly addiction to it is the principal enemy to America's prosperity, to our leadership, to our national security, to the values that make us proud to be part of this country. California, which is our most fuel-efficient state, is also the richest state and has the most vibrant economy. So we know that when you decarbonize your economy, when you get off of coal and oil, you immediately experience the rewards of prosperity. I was getting the most prolonged and loudest standing ovations from Republican audiences, and it occurred to me very early on that 80% of Republicans were Democrats who just didn't know what was going on. And Berkeley is the heart of representative democracy. Berkeley and Boston, this is the place where when everybody else has walked away from democracy, Berkeley has kept the fire going. I was in Alabama 2 weeks ago, and I was driving from Huntsville to Birmingham. And the AM dial is all right-wing talk, right? It's completely, there's nothing progressive or liberal. But in Alabama, the FM dial is also 100% right-wing talk. So there's 5 stations, and all of them are extremely, really poisonous racial stuff that you would not, believe was happening in America. And there's one NPR station. Of course, public radio is not liberal. It's just, neutral. It's just truth, right?
John Kerry, who I know very well, who has a deep moral center, who loves the oceans, who loves the waterways, who, as much as any senator, except in our history, except for perhaps Al Gore, understood and accepted the catastrophic future that the science predicts for if we continue to burn carbon the way that we are. And as I said, this pipeline, according to James Hansen, is game over for the climate. And I think President Obama has a deep moral center, and that global warming really concerns him.
In Canada, they don't allow lying on television. It's illegal on the television news to lie. I think there's a strong desire for for a revolutionary change. And, I think Barack Obama is a transcendent political leader, but there's going to be tremendous resistance to his election that comes from all of the power centers of our society. And today those power centers are very well organized. You have a military-industrial complex that is not going to want to see him elected. You have the media that is largely controlled by the right, by the far right. 90% of radio, talk radio, is now controlled by the far right, and that's where 30% of Americans get their news. 22% get their news from cable news, mainly Fox News, which is, of course, very extremely far right. And then most other Americans, the principal news source, except for the very young, is the traditional corporate networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, and CNN, which have no ideology except for their own pocketbooks. All the rulers need to do is to tell people that there's something they need to be fearful of. Hitler could point at the Jews and say, those are the big threat. We need to be frightened of them, and everybody else needs to obey so that we can fight them off. Other countries were scared of the Bolsheviks. In the United States, our demagogues point to the Mexicans or dark-skinned people and say we need to be scared of them.
Would you support Hillary Clinton again should she run in 2016?
I love Hillary Clinton.
New Yorkers come from everywhere. The best people from all over the country in every walk of life gravitate towards New York. We've produced the leaders that have articulated a vision for America of a community of all kinds of different people who go together because we share a value. It is against everything we stand for as a state to say that you can't participate in public life in this state because you weren't born here. We should be proud in our state that we've gotten somebody of the quality and the timber and the character of Hillary Clinton.
You hear the teabaggers saying that big government is the big threat to our democracy.